What's up everybody, Greg here with LensProToGo and Lens Rentals, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be doing another cinematography lighting breakdown. And this one looking at a dark and moody interview style setup that I actually just did a full video on, covering the behind the scenes in a vlog style, showing exactly how we got it set up with all of the gear. Now the reason I'm doing this one again is because I want to see and hear from you guys, what do you like better? Do you like this format that's more straightforward, or do you like that vlog style behind the scenes look? So let me know in the comments down below. If you haven't seen that other one, definitely go and check that out because it shows a little more in depth of what we're doing with this shoot, and this one's a little more direct. So again, let me know in the comments down below on either one of the videos which ones you like the style of better. Now let's dive into this one, take a look at the shot, and then start getting into the breakdown. So for the camera setup, we were shooting on the Blackmagic Pocket 6K, and we were shooting in 6K so that we'd have that resolution to be able to crop and do a little bit of reframe if we needed to, as well as shooting in RAW so that we had a little bit of flexibility with our color grade. Next up, we were shooting on the Sigma 18-35 T2, and we were shooting at a 2:4:8 split, so we got a little bit of depth in there just in case our interview subject, or me in this case, was moving around. And we're shooting at 18 millimeters, which is more personal preference than anything you really want to do for an interview. I just really like that wider field of view. It gets you a little more involved with the subject, and you can really feel that emotion and the movement in their body. Next up, we shot with the Bright Tangerine Misfit Atom matte box, and we used the Tiffin IRND filters with the 0.9 IRND in here. So jumping over into the setup and seeing what it looked like before we started getting any of our lights up, as you can see with the overhead lights on, it's just incredibly flat. This wall behind me has no dimension to it. It's very like one-dimensional along with my face. There's no shape on it, no shadows under my eyes. All the light is coming directly on. As you can see, we also got some of these shadows in the background coming from other objects and other light sources, and it just is not a flattering look. So we didn't want any of this light interfering with our setup, so the first thing that we actually did was turn off all of the house lights. This gave us a clean slate to start with, and then we brought in our very first light, which was a Westcott Flex 2x2 panel. And this we had set up just outside of frame left, up overhead, giving us a nice directional light down on our subject. Again, this is the 2x2 bicolor panel, and we had this set up to tungsten, which I'll explain why in a little bit when I talk about the eye light and some of the other things we had going on. This light, because it's a pretty big source, it's a 2x2 panel, we didn't want it to be spilling all over the place, so we also threw on the barn doors and a grid. This allowed us to focus down the light onto our subject and really isolate our subject in sort of this darkness and not get any spill on the background back here. Now this is starting to look really good on our talent. We're getting that really nice soft light wrapping around our talent's face. But the one thing that we don't have is that separation from the background. So that's where we brought in our next light, which we did overhead to sort of motivate off that same direction as our key light. And for this one, we used another Westcott Flex light, and this is the 1x2, and this is also an RGB light. And that's important because we were actually playing around with some colors, and that's why it was important that we had our key light as tungsten, because we were playing around with cool colors in the background, those greens and blues. And if we set our white balance on our camera to that daylight, it would really muddy up those blue colors in the background. They wouldn't be as saturated, as impactful. At the end, we ended up going with white, so that's why we have two tungsten bulbs here, but we were playing around with RGB, and that's why we have it set up that way. Now this light's doing a couple different things for our image. One, it's giving us a really nice gradient on this gray background, giving us some good separation, almost silhouetting our subject, as well as giving a nice rim light on our subject, which is also separating them from the background and really making them stand out in this image. This could also be a really cool shot if you want to do some sort of witness protection thing where you didn't want to see your talent's face, but you still wanted to have a figure in the frame and hear them talking. Now going ahead and adding back in our key light, this was what we ended up with our final look for the wide shot. So again, we have that really nice big soft light coming down from top left, giving us a nice smooth light across the face. And then we have that rim light and that background light giving us a nice gradient in the background and adding some really nice dimension to the shot. So that's what we had set up for our wide shot. Now let's jump into the tight shot where we added one more light in, but basically kept everything else the same. So again, starting with our key light, we had that same Westcott Flex 2x2 panel overhead, giving us that really nice soft light with the grid on it to separate it from the background and really let this fall off into darkness. We had that same Westcott Flex light overhead in the background, that 1x2 RGB panel. and that was giving us that really nice background light gradient on the wall, and again, that rim light really separating our subject from the background and making them stand out. This would be the closer up shot if you wanted to do that sort of witness protection look where you don't see the person's face, but you still have that figure. And then the last light that we added in, which we didn't add in the wide shot, is a nice little eye light or a catch light. This adds just a little bit of a reflection in our eyes so you can really connect with the viewer, and the viewer has something to look at instead of just these dark pockets in where your eyes should be. Now for this, we used another Westcott light, and this was an ice light. This was placed just over camera, and we had this going on at full power, but we had so much ND in there and we were stopped down so much that you could really only see this little bit of light as well as the reflection in the eyes. Now, like I mentioned before with the other two lights, we were shooting in tungsten, so we had to really warm up this light. The ice light that I have is only a daylight balanced light. So what we ended up doing was wrapping it in orange gels, and this allowed us to get that light closer to what the tungsten was, so there wasn't this huge blue shift in the light, and it gave us that nice little eye light that we were looking for. Now going back, like I've mentioned a little bit before, I would probably switch all of these over to daylight, and that would allow me to have a little bit more of that reflection in there because it wouldn't be cutting down the light by having so many gels on it to try and match that tungsten look. This light's also giving some nice fill to the shadow side of my face. So as you'll see in the final, that's gonna fill in the shadow side to give us some really nice exposure on the face and really allow us to see who our subject is. So going back to the beginning and starting with our key light only, we have that Westcott Flex 2x2 panel coming from top left, coming down, giving us really nice soft shadows across our face. We add in our rim light, which is giving us a nice gradient on the background as well as a rim on our subject and allowing them to stand out from that darker background. Checking out the background alone if you wanted to just do that witness protection look. And then finally adding in that eye light, which just gives a little bit of a pop in those eyes and fills in some of the shadow side of the face. So that was our final look, going from this close-up shot to the wide and back and forth for our entire interview, as well as cutting in with B-roll and some other things like that. But that's the setup for this one. I hope you guys enjoy this one. Hope you guys picked something up and learned a little bit. Again, go and check out that other behind the scenes. Let me know what you think about that video versus this one, which style you like better, if you like sort of the quick, straight to the point informative, or if you like that really behind the scenes, in-depth kind of vlog. If you want to check out any of the gear that I talked about, that's always going to be linked to in the description down below as well. And if you enjoyed this type of video and you want to see more, check out the other playlists. Also subscribe to the channel for new videos every single week, and I'll see you in the next one.